Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to another CryptoManiacs podcast, Thursday, February the 9th, 2023. We are approaching episode 200, Task. I think this is 192. Wow. Not too bad for, well, I guess the elephant in the room, other than the bird in the room that's going to squawk in the background because I'm at my sister-in-law's house trying to do this, impromptu kind of me and Task only, because we had a guest today, but it didn't work out. So you guys are stuck with Task and I. Task, I'm going to see how you're doing, man, and I'm going to mute myself so the bird doesn't squawk in everyone's ear for the next hour.
I'm doing good. I made it to this week's show. Unlike last week, we had a couple guests lined up, but evidently they're having technical difficulties like I did last week. And, such is the life of technology. So that's where we stand. We adapt and we carry on. And we made the commitment to do the shows, and you carried the show last week. And we had our Tuesday show without a hitch. And this week, it's just this Thursday, it's you and I. And we'll try to reschedule them and maybe have two guest shows next week. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. But maybe just touch on this, man, before we get into anything too deep. Like I said, 192, man. 8 episodes away from 200. Think of these poor souls that have been listening to us for the past 2 years and a bit now. I feel for them. I don't know about you, but they have infinite patience and amazing foresight to invest their time listening to us, because this is going to be bigger than the Joe Rogan podcast. I promise you this. Everyone doesn't have a chance.
Here. Remember when Cal and I said, I think I said it to you off air, but Cal posted that he did his 300th video on 3Speak.
Yes, sir.
And I said,
yep.
Wait till you see the post I have coming up in about a week, because I knew I was closing in on 2,000. And so then I put that up, and he's like, damn, I thought I was impressive at 300. And so now that I wasn't aware, obviously you labeled the shows when you put them up, so you're keeping track of that stuff. So I didn't know where we're at, but the CTT guys, they get really excited when they say, hey, we're on episode 62. And now I'll just go in, and this Saturday, if they mention something like that, I'll say, yeah, CryptoManiacs is almost at 200.
Yeah, it's good to keep people humble, but they're crushing it, man. They're doing good, man. That's awesome.
They're just not real consistent because, Matt's always doing whatever Matt does. And,
wherever Matt is in the world, right? Yeah.
Yeah, wherever he is in the world. If there's a war zone, he's got to go check it out, I guess, or whatever. And then Dan, he's battled the bug a couple times. And, of course, he's got, I think, 2 little ones.
Yep.
So that'll keep you busy. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, hey, John, you and I, for 192 episodes and for many years before that, we always preach consistency, and we beat people over the head with it. And the first thing we have to do is live it. And, we do live it with our on-chain activity, but this is part of it. And, we each were disgusted a couple of weeks ago where we had to skip an episode. Then I was disgusted that, the burden fell on you last Thursday because of the fucking Spectrum guy outside saying, well, I had to rewire everything because it's a mess back there, and your guy down here below you is having a problem. It's like, I got a show to do in 20 minutes. Oh, it'll be done by then. Fucking an hour and a half later, and it's like, and under normal circumstances, it may have been okay. The problem was you were on with Blaine, which you guys are on air all the time. So you asking him questions is kind of like, in many instances, asking rhetorical questions because the damn answers.
Well, I was talking to myself, right?
I was going to say, it's like talking to yourself.
Yeah. So, it was good. It was healthy.
but hey, this is the situation we're at. So, we're approaching 200. That shows the dedication, the consistency. And, thankfully we have people like Jimmy. We have people like that who tune in every week for the 2 episodes, and they listen religiously. And hopefully they get something out of it. And judging by the guests, I mean, we try to target people who are involved with stuff that we feel will be interest of people on Hive. And that goes
Mhm.
from everybody from people like Block Trades and Howu, who are part of the core or the main parts of the core development team, to Hive Cuba and what's going on there. I'm trying to get the people from Ghana.
Mhm.
We're trying to get into Venezuela. Other than technical difficulties, we would have been talking to Venezuela, and different people, different topics, different things they're involved in, different projects. Next week we got Lekatu. We got
Yep.
Elmer. So,
Yep.
these are all, we get Raymond Speaks, we bring Cal on, we try to bring people on who are either movers or shakers on Hive, or doing interesting stuff, because that's what I think people, and I think you agree with me, this is what we think people want to see and hear and get some insight from.
Well, it's the like a lot of people, especially because I wanted to touch on some of the stuff going on in crypto today on crypto Twitter. But they always talk about community, they always talk about global reach, they always talk about decentralization, blah blah blah. It's all talking head stuff. Meanwhile, Hive is actually doing this, and you see it. You have people from Ghana, you have people from Nigeria, you have people from South Africa, you have people from Venezuela, you have every Asian country you could possibly imagine. You've got all of Europe, you've got North America, you got South America. It truly is a global blockchain, and it's not just a buzzword. It's not just saying, oh yeah, we're decentralized in a truly global community. We really are, and I think that's important. And I'm glad our show is trying to do that, to get out to more and more people in this community, because it's powerful. It really can change the world. And we saw that today with what's going on in your glorious country. Do you think we should touch on that with your glorious government telling people what they can and cannot do with their own money?
Yeah, I mean, it's well, before we get to the U.S. government, and it's like that old saying, we're from the government and we're here to help. Before getting to that, yeah, you just look at the guests we had. I mean, we started with Nathan, who I don't even know where he was at the time. I think he was in the Far East, but he's from the UK, I believe. We've had Belimo on. He's from Nigeria. Brian of London is from Israel. We had Howu, who was in Canada, but I believe he's from France. Elindos is from France. Archange where's
French.
Archange?
He's French. Yeah, he's French too.
He's French.
Mhm.
Then we have Starkers, who the hell knows where Starkers is.
It's a
We
global
got Dan
citizen,
hanging
man.
out. Dan and Eddie hanging out in Mexico, hanging out
Yeah,
in Tijuana, drinking tequila or whatever they do. So we have our dress wearing Scotsman, our skirt wearing Scotsman, Raymond Speak,
for sure. Yeah.
who's up in Scotland. And I mean, it's just we travel the globe, and we try to do that. And Shadows Pub, I guess, is up in your neck of the woods, somewhere north of the border from me.
Yep.
And that's what we do. So when you talk about a global economy or a global community, and this goes back to what we talked about Tuesday after your win, and I hope I got the right number of wins in there, which was based upon a tweet that Dan sent out that talks about, it's one thing for Hoskinson to talk about going into Africa, and they put together this visit and all this, pomp and circumstances. We got boots on the ground in Nigeria. We got boots on the ground in South Africa. We got boots on the ground in Ghana. Now we have boots on the ground in Cuba and Venezuela and stuff like that. And it's not like we are some company or foundation or entity that's sitting there saying, hey, John, let's put together a project and let's
Yeah, a
get some,
photo op, basically, right?
yeah, a photo op and let's get some tokens and we'll go into Ghana or we'll go
Yeah.
wherever. And,
Look at
you
us, we're
know,
global. Yeah.
it's, you know, where the hell was it? Pakistan, high Pakistan or something like that. Somebody was talking about Pakistan the other day. Then somebody else was talking about Iran. And so I guess there's people in Iran, getting on Hive. And that's what it's all about. And one thing I agree with Dan, the opportunity with each of these individuals or in each of these communities is each of them has a wallet. And if we can get some Hive, some HBD flowing into those areas, that helps the token distribution. That helps spread things out. That starts the process of growth in those areas. And of course, some of these markets, because of their local economies, it doesn't take all that much to make a significant difference.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's like you said, it's boots on the ground. It's actually people living there, actually people contributing to their communities and trying to build something. It's not just, like you said, Hodgkinson going, hey, you look at us, we're going here, there, and everywhere, and it's just someone traveling there. It's actually people part of that country and part of that part of that community, part of, that culture. And that's what kind of, just why I love this blockchain so much, because it's literally the gift that keeps giving globally too. So.
Well, after yesterday's snafu with the major social media, I guess somebody tweeted out, what would cryptocurrency do if Twitter
without
disappeared?
Twitter? Right.
And Addicted replied, Hive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, what do you mean, what will we do? And it's like we talk about. I mean, influencers and anything equal bullshit, fraud, scammer. But, we talk about the crypto influencers. We talk about the community of Ethereum on Twitter. Hive is a completely different animal because we talk about the Hive community. It's like we're not talking about the people on Twitter. Yeah, there's Hivians on Twitter, but when we talk about they call me Dan, I'm not talking about they call me Dan on Twitter. I'm talking about they call me Dan on Hive. He's over on Twitter, getting involved and well, it's actually Starkers who gets in there and starts getting into scrapes with people. But Addicted does too. So they start, going and brawling out there virtually.
It's great.
But you start to look at this and you say, I see Starkers and Dan every week or I don't see it, but I listen to them on CTT. Okay, they do it on Spaces, but like with this, they upload it to the blockchain. I can see the post. I can then click, and it's on 3Speak, so I can listen to it if I don't listen to it live. Addicted. Right. Okay, he lives on Twitter. I mean, whatever. But I see his posts on Hive. I see his comments on Hive. I mean, these are people you see around. So it's just so much different when you start talking about their community of Ethereum. And it was like Vitalik saying, well, we can run governance through Reddit. It's like, that made us laugh. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? You got to use Reddit to discuss governance issues? Well, how do you guys do it? Well, we just put up a post. I have an idea. I put up a post. John sees it and says, that's the dumbest idea I ever heard of. And 3 other people agree with John and 6 other people disagree. And, after putting up about 30 posts about the same thing after 2 years, we finally agree to some consensus and then something gets implemented. But we're not doing it on Reddit. We do it right on Hive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like you said, every time you hear these influencers whine and complain, it's just like, you guys are just talking heads. Like, you don't practice what you preach. You say you want decentralization. You say you want Web3. You really don't. You really don't. Like, you saw that today, especially, and this kind of goes back to the whole look at your awesome government. No offense. I love America. But people whining and complaining.
I'm not going to defend the U.S. government. I mean, if Lad decided to lob something and it landed squarely on Washington, I mean, I feel bad for the people, but if he landed it right on the Capitol,
I, I I got a shout out before I get into that. I got to shout out Lord Butterfly. He did a tweet yesterday where he did the political spectrum test, right? And he threw up his results. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm gonna do. It's like a little quiz. So you go through it and it tells you where you lean. You lean right. You lean left. Or you're libertarian or you're authoritarian. And like literally, he was right down the middle, like libertarian, right? And so I did it, and I was like a little bit to the right of libertarian, a little right leaning. So it was fascinating to that. Like that was actually one of the questions. Like not if a bomb would blow up your White House, but like, what would are you so proud of your country? I was like, not really. Like it's
no.
I didn't have a choice, or I was bored. Like it's not, I don't get that.
I was listening to I was listening to an interview with a guy. It was a YouTube video, and guy made a fortune trading electricity futures, and billionaire, and he's on his private jet with this guy interviewing him. Just a YouTuber. And he said, he's a little bit younger than me. He was born in 1972. And he said, there was a point in time, he said, even early on in my life, I could still remember where people were proud to be American. Mm-hmm. And he said, now it's not. And he said, he came at it more from the financial perspective of things. He didn't really get into the social issues. But he said, you have everybody concerned about money, and the focus is money, and it's not about connection. It's not about family. It's not about, how can you help people, help them deal with their traumas, whether it's, some type of abuse in life or whatever. I mean, he says, all this stuff is residual. He says, if you're in a car accident at any point in time and an airbag goes off in your face, he says there's trauma there. And years later, you'll still have that trauma. I mean, it's still kind of in your cellular structure. And, it's true. And I mean, I made the comment, I don't know if I made it on this show or if I just did it in video, but in the last election, the House switched from Democrat to Republican. So you get a new speaker. And every time it switched, like the past 10 years, Nancy Pelosi always came back in. So I knew who the hell she was. Mm-hmm. Now, for like a week, there was, I guess, a vote within the Republicans to try to get their leader. And there was a big fight, I guess. And I don't know. And the guy who got elected, McCarthy, whatever the hell his name is, I didn't even know who the hell this asshole was. I had no fucking idea. And it's like I see people posting this, and I'm like, who the hell's that? And it's like, McCarthy's got to win because he's the best choice, or he sucks. And I'm like, how the hell So I had to look it up, and so I looked up the guy. Yeah. And it's like, okay, he's from California, so there's strike 1 and 2. And so he's no different from Pelosi there. And strike 3 is he's another career politician. I said, oh, so we just have another criminal as Speaker of the House. And now this jackass is saying, well, China told me not to go to Taiwan, so I'm going to go to Taiwan just to piss the Chinese off. And it's like, what are you, an asshole? Are you just asking them to invade while we're fucking with Putin in the Middle East, or not in the Middle East, in Ukraine? I mean, we still got that on our plate. And, that's what these warmongering assholes do, is they get us into battles like on 17 different fronts. And no wonder we haven't won shit since World War II. Vietnam got our asses kicked. Iraq got our asses kicked. Afghanistan really got our asses kicked. Oh, okay, let's go fuck around with the Chinese over Taiwan. What do you think's going to happen here? I'm gonna lean towards we're gonna get our ass kicked again. How do we get our asses kicked? We spend a boatload of money, spend years there, and then we leave in the middle of the night. $2 trillion.
So you're telling a proud American right now, or what's going on, man?
As I said, if Russia decided to lob something into Washington, I mean, there's a lot of innocent people that I hope would get out and see it coming. But there's a lot of, let's say, bureaucrats. Let's talk about Gensler. I mean, I tie him to the dome of the Capitol as that missile's coming in and say, put a bullseye on his chest. There's one that can take one for the team, and I would I would rejoice over that one because what a jackass he is. Um, you know, which side of the aisle do you want blown up? How about we blow up both of them? Both the right side and the left side because they're just crooks.
Oh,
So
it's so
I
funny.
don't know where I'd fall on Lord Butterfly's political
Political,
spectrum.
yeah, it was
Somewhere
fascinating.
between
Yeah.
terrorist, anarchist, and executioner, I guess.
Well, I think majority of true crypto people, like let's be honest, true crypto people are they lean, they're more libertarian than anything, right? Like very, don't hurt me, I won't hurt you. Let's all go make money, and it doesn't matter, how we do it as long as we're not hurting each other. I mean, so
Yeah, there's certainly. I mean, and I think the true crypto people, there certainly is an anti-government
yeah,
sentiment, and
for sure.
I mean, that's my political. If we could phrase it that way, that's just my belief system. I don't give a shit what government style you talk about. I
Right,
don't
exactly.
care if you talk about the parliament and jackass you got. What do you call it, prime minister? I
Yeah,
don't care if you
we got a gem up here, yeah, for sure.
yeah, I don't care if you talk about that jackass or you talk about Congress and the jackass two we got in the White House. The last guy
Jackassery,
was
that's
a real
hilarious.
piece of work. I don't even know who the hell Britain has, but they had that jackass Boris. What a goof he was in Parliament. And then they had that other lady who she lasted, I think, less time than that fucking Pope. Before Pope John Paul II, I guess Pope John Paul I, he lasted like 3 minutes. That's
Yeah,
what
he didn't last long, right? Yeah.
and I don't even know who the hell they have now. And I mean, it's just they're all corrupt. I mean, we talk about the Chinese government. It's like, well, our governments are no better. They're just tyrants.
There's not a shining example of humanity in charge of any of these countries. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
No, like there's it goes back to 330 million people in the United States, and the last two presidents we get Trump and Biden. These are the two best people you can find out of 330 million. This is the shining example. Good God!
Oh man. Oh, this is great. This is great content, folks.
Give me some 22-year-old. I mean, I know they can't be in president because you got to be 35, but give me some stoner. Dave Dickey, let's send him and put him in the White House. I mean, let's put Dave Dickey all in the White House. I mean, give him a bong and let him lead the country. I mean, he'd do 1,000 times better than these jackasses.
Dude, okay. Like, this is perfect segue. Even though we've been talking about political rants, we got to keep political rants, but let's put it into crypto now with the big decision today from your glorious leaders in the SEC to shut down staking on a certain centralized exchange.
Well, what
comments
was
on this?
I missed it. Was that official? Because I know they were talking about it, and Brian Armstrong tweeted that would be a dumb idea. Did they officially? SEC officially
I'm pretty sure it went. I'm pretty sure it went through today. Yeah, it's Kraken. Kraken has they agreed to stop. So it wasn't like a law or anything. Kraken just agreed, like, okay, we'll stop U.S. customers from staking tokens on our exchange. Like, I mean, and it was really interesting. I think it was Lord Butterfly. Apologies if it wasn't. It might have been Marky. One of the guys was on Twitter, and they said, the more damage that's done to crypto is not the government. It's going to be through centralized exchanges. They're going to do more harm. What would you say?
I think this is how do I phrase this? Gensler, who, as I said, I'm such a fan
He needs to
of.
be on the dome.
He needs to be on the dome as Putin's missiles coming in with a bullseye on his chest. That jackass is going after the centralized exchanges about staking, which you're a real horse's ass if you stake on a centralized exchange. I mean, shit, didn't we just see what happens with FTX, you fucking morons?
This is what I don't get. They're literally crypto influencers out there whining and complaining about this. I'm like, why would you stake on an exchange in the first place? Like you said, didn't we just go through this FTX crap? Like, it's
Yeah,
mind-blowing.
it's like, have you ever heard, use Leo Glossary, type in counterparty. There's a Leo Glossary page for counterparty, and it'll tell you explaining what counterparty risk means. And when your shit is on an exchange, that's the counterparty risk. And
Right.
a lot of people found that out, especially Wall Street people who typically understand counterparty risk. And they found out, oh shit, we believed SBF, and maybe we shouldn't have believed this socialistic communist with long hair who's walking around with his shoes untied and hasn't had a shower in 3 days. Maybe we shouldn't believe this guy with $150 million.
This is the guy we're trusting our fortunes to. Like,
and I don't give a shit if you like
was gonna happen.
I don't care if you like Elon Musk or you don't like Elon Musk. But one thing Elon Musk said is, he goes, as soon as I met that guy, because he wanted to invest, SBF wanted to invest in Twitter when he was buying. Yeah. He said, as soon as I interacted with the guy, he said my bullshit meter went off the charts. He said, I knew he was full of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, so Gensler actually, in a way, is helping people. But the problem is I don't believe that the government should protect people from themselves. I mean, if people want to put their money on Kraken and lose their money, I mean, that's fine. I don't give a shit and I don't feel bad about the people who lost their money in FTX. What's the number one rule in crypto? Not your keys, not your crypto. Or coins or whatever. And it's like, okay. So Markey or Lord Butterfly, whoever said that, they're absolutely correct. The damage is from centralized exchanges, because this is not crypto. This is Wall Street antics all over again. That's all it is it's Wall Street bullshit. As I've said, you could go through Long-Term Capital Management, MF Global, Bernie Madoff. There's a bunch of them, and it's all the same story. Enron, Enron was more accounting scandal. So it's just all the same stuff, and it's just fraud. It's just manipulation, and that's all these assholes are doing. So I love to see Mike Novogratz go down the tube to $150 million, and the Winklevoss twins. Well, I guess maybe Zuckerberg was smarter than you two jackasses after all, because he's doing his best to lose his money, but I mean, he's only, he started at such a high level that he can afford to. I mean, these people, I mean, their exchange had to file bankruptcy because they were, caught out. Actually, I don't know if it was FTX. I think they're in with GBTC, whatever the parent company of that is. But it's again the same old adage over and over and over again, and it's like I said I put up on Threads yesterday when I saw the Brian Armstrong. I said I linked the article and I just said, can't do this dive.
Yep.
I can save I can put my HBD in savings, and there's not shit they can do about it.
That's what's really interesting too, because yesterday, before all this stuff went too ballistic, HBD had this, because we're not a stable coin, we're definitely a stable-ish coin. It went to, what was it, like $1.29 or something for a couple minutes there, and then it came back down.
I get up in the morning, I do my article, John, then I do my voting, and so then I usually get around to getting on Twitter, and a lot of times when I see this shit, it's like 14 hours old, so it happens when I'm not online or I'm sleeping or whatever.
So from Leo Threads.
What's that?
I got my news about HBD through Leo Threads.
Maybe that's where I saw it. Maybe it was on Threads, but I did see somebody posted that it was like at $1.20.
Yeah.
And when I looked, I just went on to PT and looked at it, and it was like at $1.02 or something. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So it stable-ished itself.
Well, we know what the problem is. See, here's the problem. I would be curious to see what it did on the internal exchange, because what people do is they're always throwing shit up from CoinGecko, which is reading Bittrex and Upbit.
Yeah.
And we know Upbit is manipulated by the Koreans. They're untouchable because it's a closed exchange. You got to be Korean to get on there.
Yeah.
So nobody can arbitrage it across either Dexis or the internal exchange or even on Bittrex. So if you
Right.
can't arbitrage it, they just do what they do. And so I would be curious to see. I've noticed that in these pumps, the internal exchange doesn't go nearly as high, and because of the HBD stabilizer, it gets pulled back a lot quicker.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're stable-ish. We're not a stable coin. We're an algorithmic driven. I mean, for the peg, here's the deal: the peg is not from the market. The
Yeah.
peg is from the conversion. You get $1 of hive
Yeah.
if you convert. So to say that it's broken the peg is untrue. If the price goes to $1.20 or goes down to 80, it did
Right.
not break the peg because the peg is guaranteed on the conversion, not through the exchanges.
So
Now,
so the exchange got nothing to do. It's when you say I want my HBD to Hive or Hive to HBD, it goes to 3 days, and that's always at $1 worth of Hive, right? It's not
yes,
throwing it out on the exchange.
yes,
Mm.
because what happens is the constant is the dollar, the USD. The
Yeah,
hive the amount of
up and
hive you
down.
get will
Right.
fluctuate, and that's what a free floating exchange rate does. Is you have it pegged to a constant, a unit of account, if you will. So we
Right.
have the unit of account between HBD and hive being USD, and the hive will fluctuate based upon the market pricing over, like you said, those 3 days.
Right.
And so depending on what hive does over those 3 days, you may get a little more hive or a little less hive from when you actually started the transaction. Well, you get your 50% up front, then the other 50% is variable, but you still at the end of the day will have received for each of your HBD $1 worth of hive. It's
Right.
just you're getting basically two different time reads off that.
Yeah.
And that's where the peg is. And as long as we're below that haircut level, we can guarantee that peg. The blockchain can guarantee that peg. Now,
Mm.
in the market will do what the market does. And what's very interesting is Upbit and on CoinGecko, you got a lot of volatility in the HBD pricing. You have
Yeah.
less on the internal exchange. You have even less on PHBD and BHBD. They tend to be closer to a dollar more often, where you'll find, the internal exchange, it's at like 98.7 cents or whatever. HBD or BHBD through the DEX actually holds it a little better. I mean, that'll fluctuate. It'll be not 0.99, it'll be
Right.
1.01.
Right.
So that does fluctuate too. But that one actually has a tighter range than even the internal exchange.
Mm.
Um, but that's the I've been putting my posts together, and I've kind of been alternating days this week about building a currency. And the goal is and has to be to build the value of HBD, not through a reserve, not through backing, not through any of this shit, through what makes a currency valuable, what makes it useful, and you start to get into payment systems, you get into funding mechanism, you get into derivatives, you get into sophistication. You need depth, you need liquidity, you need distribution, you need all of these things. And you need basically at the end of the day, where yes, you'll have the financial component, you'll have the commercial component, and you'll also have the component where people will keep it in their wallet because, you know, tomorrow I may sign on to my gambling app and I want to do a little gambling. So I need, 500 HBD in my wallet to go gamble with, or
Right.
I may want to bet on the sporting events, or I may want to go, all of a sudden I want to join John's subscription and I got to send him 10 HBD or
Mm.
whatever the case may be. That's really where it starts to spread out in the tentacles, and you start to hit upon these key areas. And then it's like, well, it doesn't really matter about the fluctuation in price because people are just using it and they need it.
I guess I got a little bit of news, gossip, and scandal for you. I tweeted out yesterday, and I'm pretty sure I'm being silenced on Twitter because anytime I put the Hive tag in, I get like no interaction. So I'm pretty sure Hive is still shadow banned ish.
Yeah, it is. I notice when I vote for people like Dan and people who talk a lot about Hive, it goes up one and goes right back down. So
Yeah,
yeah, they're
yeah,
still the shadow
constant.
ban.
Yeah. That's something we're doing. We're actually one of the projects that we're releasing here in the first quarter of 2023. I tweeted it out last night, a little screenshot of our new HivePay app,
Hmm.
and it's basically HBD is what we're focusing on. So we want to bring a lot more of people in the CTP community into the habit and the mindset of using HBD like a dollar. Use
Exactly.
that, and that's what we want to do. Because, and that's, I kind of joked on the tweet that I said everyone wants more HBD, because I really do. It's like, again, it's my vision of 2023. I said it when I started my year, what I planned for the year. It's getting out a lot of projects. Not that I don't believe in them. I just want to focus on Hive, building my Hive stake up continuously, but also that HBD, man. I mean, like, it blows my mind when I think about, Cal's tweet about the guy, the lazy panda, who did 600,000 HBD, and then they're getting $10,000 a month in
Hmm.
residual, income. This is what we're always after as entrepreneurs. We're looking for residual income. We're looking for passive income that we can focus on building while focusing on our business, instead of trying to get too many things going crazy. And this is what HBD can do for me personally. And that's one of the things that we're doing in this year. Is one of the projects that we've got coming up here is focused on, that's how people are going to buy and sell different products and services, is through HBD. So
Yeah, you really threw out a lot of stuff to chew on there, and it's good
yeah,
stuff.
I try.
It all starts with the idea: the more that we, the community, the Hive ecosystem, does exactly what you're saying, pushes HBD out into the center and says, this is the medium of exchange, build around it. And we get away from the value capture token, trying to make that a medium of exchange. Because
Right.
as we discussed a couple times, this is one of the reasons why I believe the Bitcoin maxis are in for a total and complete failure. Bitcoin will not be used as a medium of exchange when it's so volatile and when there is so much speculation tied to it. And when you have Kathy Wood, I just did a video about this today.
Mhm.
Her and the art team put a forecast. Their bullish case by 2030 is 1.4 million. Their bearish case, 280,000. So why the fuck would I spend $25,000 on a car using Bitcoin if I believe Kathy Wood is right, and it's going to
Yeah.
be from these
Right.
levels like a 14x in the next 7 years from where we are today, and
Right.
potentially what is 1.4, 100x? I mean, come on, you got to have a hole in that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So I agree with that. And, CTP, Leo, Hive, our Hive token, these are value capture. This is where project teams need to start thinking about that stuff as, okay, how do we drive value to this? Not build use case. How do we drive value to it? By building, using business building concepts to actually build platforms that increase in increase in users, increase in transactions, increase in value, increase what the user experiences, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So that's really the center point that I think we all have to get to. And they called me Dan and said, okay, well, I'm going to take any sales Ragnarok. It's going to go into the savings.
Savings. Yeah.
Any entry fees, any of that for people to play the game goes into savings, and the reward pool comes from savings. That's a tremendous way to put HBD front and center in your application.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 1,000% that that's really what needs to happen. And then because of that, once you start doing it, when I get involved in CTP and there's a subscription and it costs me 10 HBD a month or 5 HBD a month or whatever is being charged, I
Right.
know what the hell an HBD is. You tell me it's 32 CTP, I got to go look up and see what 32 CTP is. And then it's like, is John talking US dollars or Canadian dollars? I mean,
right.
you get into all this stuff. It's like, who the hell knows? I mean, I don't even know what Leo's at. I have no idea. So, I mean, it's like, you're asking me how many Leo it's going to take to get your subscription. I don't know. I don't know if this is a good deal, but you say, okay, it's 10 HBD. I
10
know exactly
HBD, you know it's 10 HBD.
Then you sit there and say, okay, well, it's 10 HBD a month. Oh, okay. So I got to send you 10 HBD. I got to mark my calendar or my phone every month. No, you got recurrent payments at the base layer. Oh, great. So I can do recurrent payments, 10 HBD every month for the next year. Yes, you do that. See, these are advantages we really have. And this is what I think people are overlooking. And there's too much of this. Well, we'll just add a token. And I was glad to see Leo Finance on their Project Blank kind of pull back from an extra token and say, okay, let's build it under this. Let's readjust it and redo our UI. We'll see how it works out. The new UI will come out next week. But at least they're making that a focal point. And, being on Leo Threads, the community is taken, okay, Threads is not Leo Finance related content. People are posting all Greta memes are the number 2 or 3 trending tags. So, I mean, people are making Greta memes because one alpha decided he's going to upvote Greta memes. And so, there's a shitload of Greta memes on there. So, okay.
Big shout out to One Alpha. Big shout out.
Yeah, One Alpha, he has a Greta meme fetish, I guess. And so, to each their own. So I think these are all positive signs and all signs that the industry has to go through and Hive has to go through for us to realize that we have to change the way we're doing things. So I'm glad you've decided to make HBD the focal point of Hive Pay. Yeah. And now we go back to this idea of building value around Hive, the coin, CTP. And this goes right back to views and what I was saying before the show with views.
It's a different mindset, like you said, and this is what I think people don't understand when they first jump on to Hive, because what they see is they see the post payout and they don't even do the 50-50. Like they're not even thinking, they're just thinking Hive. So, I'm going to get Hive rewards. So the mentality is I'm going to try to get as much Hive as I can, and that's going to be what I'm being paid. Cool story, but this is the mentality, I think, definitely what I'm doing in 2023. I look at Hive, like you said, it's the value token. I think of it as governance, because what that does for me,
governance.
It is governance, but what it does for me, it allows me, going to what Dan was talking about on Twitter, it allows me to spread my vote out more. It allows me to give more of the rewards pool out, and I'm not looking to make a living off of my Hive power. I'm looking to eventually make a living off of the HBD I'm getting every single month. So the Hive is literally this engine that's feeding my HBD income. And if we don't think in the terms of, I'm just going to get Hive, power down and sell it, and no, let me take the Hive, power it up, because it gives me governance. It gives me more ability to curate content. It allows me to distribute the token
access. More. It's also an access token.
It's an access token, which I just delegated 50% of my resource credits to this little project we got coming out here in the next little bit, because we're going to need a lot of accounts. So all of this Hive and powered up Hive power is just like you said. It's like this. It's what you need to feed everything else. So for me personally, I'm not looking at, I got 50 Hive and that's $25 and I'm going to cash it out. I never thought like that, but my mentality is that's 50 Hive that's powered up. Now that allows me to distribute more, and it allows me to feed the curation, which feeds hopefully my rewards and everyone's rewards, and then I build up my HBD over time. So,
well, there's also another more basic aspect to this. Hive is speculation,
right?
Because it's volatile. CTP speculation.
It's Bitcoin, right, for us.
It's speculation, which there's nothing wrong with speculation. Raoul Pal is 110% speculation. Mm-hmm. HBD is yield. Raoul Pal doesn't give a crap about yield. He said that. He goes, I don't care. I don't do fixed income. I'm not interested.
Right.
Fixed income's the largest market out there. The bond market's the largest market out there. But think of it this way. I am accumulating Hive, not high power, Hive, liquid Hive through, moving other tokens around between, stuff I delegated that pays out in liquid Hive. And I'm accumulating Hive. I'm accumulating Hive and I'm not powering it up with the intention of selling on a pump. Because think of it this way. Let's say you have, I don't know, we'll pick up a round number, 1,000 Hive, John, and you have it liquid in your account. And let's say the Hive pumps to $3. So you go and you sell your 1,000 Hive for $3, you get $3,000. Now you take, or 3,000 HBD. Now you take those 3,000 HBD, you throw it in savings, you're earning $600 a year off that 3,000 HBD.
Right.
Now, if you want to keep a little liquid in case, it's just a Korean pump, it went up to $3. Now I'll go back and buy it. It's 50 cents. Then you can buy back in and you come out ahead. But the other point, the point I'm trying to make is on chain at the base layer, we have a parking spot. If you are trading, if you are playing Hive up and down, you have the ability just to flip it into HBD and it's a parking spot.
Right.
That's what people do with Bitcoin. They unload their Bitcoin because they say, okay, it's at 60,000. I don't think it'll go to 100. I think it's going to have a pullback, and they'll go into Tether or USDC or whatever, or they'll pull out and go into fiat. Right. This is the same principle. You look at the use case of HBD, payment system, parking spot. The ability to create a derivative on a layer 2 and create financial products that people have to use this HBD derivative that's tied to HBD as payment to buy your synthetic assets, to buy your NFTs, to buy whatever in your store. All this stuff it's centered around this idea. And this is what I'm trying to spell out in these series of articles of how to build the currency. And now you get all this shit and it's like, who gives a crap about the backing? I mean, who cares? I don't give a crap about the backing because I'm using this BHBD to buy all the NFTs that I want because I want 1,000 NFTs. Okay. I don't care because I go to the internal exchange when my Hive pumps. I sell my Hive. I get my HBD. I hold my HBD till the price of Hive drops. I don't care about converting. I'm trading it. When I pay John every month his $5 or $10, I pay John his 5 or 10 HBD. I want his service. I don't care about this other shit. That's where you start to create the value on the stable-ish coin itself, on the algorithmic stable coin. And the reserve then doesn't really matter other than the people who are converting large amounts just because of liquidity issues. And ultimately, you get past those liquidity issues because if you got enough, if you have derivatives and stuff like that, people say, okay, maybe I can't get a hold of the Hive itself, but the only one who will convert then is somebody who really needs like 1 million HBD to stick into something because they're creating derivatives or something like Cal or something. Right. And the other thing you mentioned, sinking your teeth into, is when you start to look at the type of tokens you got. And the problem is we call it currency, so everybody says medium of exchange. No, they're digital assets. Hive is not a currency, really. It's a value capture. NFTs are not currency. They're whatever the fuck NFTs are. Access tokens are
value is subjective.
Yeah. NFTs, I think NFTs, the best way to sum up is ownership. That's probably the best way to sum it up. Access tokens aren't necessarily medium of exchange. They are for access. Now, as we know with Hive, it can overlap. There can be governance with it too. But then you have HBD, which is a medium of exchange. So, you go back to Hive and what you just said there, okay, you were able to delegate the resource credits because you have the Hive power. Right. If you didn't, this new project, somehow you would have to get a hold of Hive power, whether it's buy it yourself or maybe beg somebody to delegate to you or something. So that way you can get accounts, that way you can gain access and give your users access to the database. Because that's what they need, evidently, from this new project. So, all of this ties in together, and, well, that helps push the value of Hive. Well, yes, it does. And this is what I mentioned a couple of weeks ago about the circular economy of Hive. That's why it's so fantastic and why this thing can spin to levels that I don't think anybody really has considered possible. So when I say $100+ Hive, I'm not pulling some number out of my ass just to be a bullshit clickbait artist. I have run these numbers and I continue to run these numbers. And I mean, if Hive has $1 billion economy, and that's not a lot of money when you think about it, $1 billion of commerce taking place, not trading, but commerce, people buying stuff, whether NFTs or
Right.
subscriptions or whatever. You got $1,000, $1 billion being used in HBD. I'm trying to work out, based upon other currencies and velocity of money, how much HBD we're going to need for that. But it's a hell of a lot of HBD.
Yeah. Dude, it's really exciting, man. I mean, it fired me up even more. Like, it's if me and you need to be fired up about Hive, but going into the new year, I always plan my year ahead, and when I started going, dude, this is what you need to do, I got really excited because I was just like, this is the golden chalice. This is what we're all after as online entrepreneurs. We're always after passive income.
It's basically what Blaine's been doing with the income token. He was doing
Oh,
the same
dude,
thing.
yeah. If you had index, you got a nice little
index
airdrop
token.
today.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What's that?
You got a nice little airdrop today. If it didn't go through yet, it'll go through in a bit of the because Splinterlands did the GLGT airdrop yesterday or the day before. So the index had like 600 of these things to give out to people, and they were trading at like 10-12 cents each. So there's like everyone who was holding index is going to get a nice little surprise today or tomorrow. So
yeah, but see, he from what you said, his goal was to cover his expenses through index.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's his dream. Yeah, for sure.
That's fixed income. That's the fixed income market where you go and you buy an asset, bond, whatever the case may be, CD, savings bond, whatever, and you get the interest, you get the payment, and that's what you can live off of.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same thing with HBD. You go in there and you put in 10,000 HBD, you'll get 2,000 HBD a year. You put in 100,000, you'll get 20,000 a year. You put in $1 million, you'll get 200,000 a year. And what can you do with HBD? Right now, you can either put it in savings or go buy Hive, which people say, oh, well, it's going to cause a problem. No, it's not, because if all of a sudden somebody took 200,000 HBD out of savings and went to the internal exchange to buy Hive, what do you think they would do to the price of Hive? They send it through the roof. Okay, it would probably be a short-lived pump because it wouldn't be sustainable, but you have buy demand because it's like, well, HBD has to be turned into Hive. I mean, unless they took the 200,000 converted, which they probably would, because there's not the liquidity on 200K. But you get my point, is if the internal exchange keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden somebody can go in with $250,000 and get out of it HBD, where can they go? The trade is, the pair is Hive. So they get Hive. Now they may go take their Hive and go somewhere else and dump it for Bitcoin. But if you're in the ecosystem, why are you going to do that? You're not.
Right. Yeah. Dude, it's amazing, man. It's I love it, and every single day I get more and more excited for it. So,
well, the financial, we focused so long, and I don't know whether it was just everybody was ready for it. I don't know whether it's because Elon brought it to the forefront, and other people were starting to get, like Cal started to clue in what I've been saying for a long time. We always focus on the social media aspect aside of Hive. We never focus on the financial, other than what's the price of Hive? Will Hive go up?
Right.
And maybe it's because of the last couple of years, the HBD stabilizer, the Hive savings going to 20%, the haircut rule, this precautions. Maybe it's all of this, Dallas and his numbers. But we finally are starting to see the financial component to Hive come to the forefront. And when I say to Hive, I'm talking on Hive, base layer stuff. Then you start to read my articles when I start talking about Hive bonds and the Hive financial network. That'll be layer 2 stuff. That's not base layer stuff, but that'll be layer 2. But then you start to to thread the needle, and you can kind of grasp, at least theoretically, where this could go and how impactful it could be. And I pulled up Dan Larimer's ancient post about the Trojan horse being social media. And basically, he was saying building a sustainable token, although he was actually talking about Hive, not HBD. But it's so true. The social media is the gateway. It's the Trojan horse to get people in. And then you have this sustainability around your currency, around your coin, that comes from the social media aspect, because people like you and Blaine and Leo Finance and all these other projects, Raymond, and all these other projects are building applications like Views that hopefully people start using, and it'll grow and get bigger and bring people from the outside, and they'll see all this Hive content, and they'll start getting a Hive account. They'll see 3Speak videos and say, what is this 3Speak? They'll go over there and they'll find out something. They'll say, okay, well, I can earn a Hive account through 3Speak, or, they'll give them a Hive account or whatever. And it's like all of a sudden they're creating videos on 3Speak and get rewarded and showing up on Views and on and on and on. And it's like, well, what do I do if I get this HBD? Well, you can put it in savings, earn 20%. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's all it is. Great show, man. Even if it was impromptu, it's always, put the microphone in front of us and say, hey, go talk about Hive and the government for an hour. And we seem to do it. So,
that was a new one on us.
Yeah. Ranting on the government. I still can't get the picture.
If anybody will accuse me of being a right winger or a left winger, because I'm a no winger, other than the I guess I'm in the missile towards the U.S. Capitol.
Doesn't hit anyone but the Capitol. That's it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Congress needs to be in session, of course. Actually, the State of the Union would be perfect. I mean, then you got the Supreme Court.
You got everybody, right?
Congress, you got the president, you got the vice president. It's like, remember that show? There was a show with 24 guy, Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah. And it was a Netflix show. It was actually pretty good when Netflix had it. Then they dumped it in like MTV or somebody picked up for last season and went to shit. But he was like, the U.S. presidency, there's a line of secession. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I guess most governments probably have this. So you got the president, then obviously if sometimes president, vice president takes over. Then if the vice president and the president are gone, it's Speaker of the House. And there's a list like down. And he was like number 8 on the list. And this was the premise of the show. And there was a State of the Union, and there was a bomb that went off and killed everybody in all like 7 people. And he was not at this event because they said, wait a second, we need somebody just in case, and you're it. So he was upset. So he's at home watching on TV, and all of a sudden the TV goes blank and his phone goes off.
He's the president.
Now Kiefer Sutherland's the president, and he was like 8th in line. He was like head of the Department of the Interior or something, and now he's president. I mean, he was like nowhere near close. And so everything goes through this guy's ascent to the presidency. Not only does he have to go from this job to the president, but he does it after like the White House and the Capitol all were blown to shit, and there was a major attack on the country. And as I said, it was a pretty good show for the first couple of years under Netflix. And Kiefer Sutherland's just always a tremendous actor, in my opinion. But it's so anyway, I gotta be careful what I say, or the Secret Service would be knocking on my door and they'll end up waterboarding me. I mean, interviewing me. And questioning me about my intentions and why I have all this fertilizer in my in my bathtub. Not and I don't own a farm. But anyway, leaving all that aside, But yes, the wonderful thing about these impromptu shows, John, is we have a lot of material to talk about. There's a lot of stuff going on in Hive, and I'm on the kick now. If you're listening to this, there's 2 things I'm going to stress to you. And I'm going to stress this to you because I know what's coming. Number 1, I know Views is going to go back to the Genesis block at some point. That's a given. So that means all content that was posted on Hive in the past 7 days and before ultimately will end up. So the more content you have, the more of your content that is fed into the engine and into the application. That's number one. Number two, make it good shit. Don't do shit posting. If you have shit posted in the early days, go back to your old posts and rework them, add more words, add a few more paragraphs, make it better quality, because as you show up in views, you want people to see your username time to good stuff, because maybe they'll click on your profile and maybe they'll start to follow you. Then the other thing is post a lot of content. Get excited about this. And again, don't spam the blockchain, but put together good posts. Get yourself consistent, because there are more and more ways to earn. And I can promise you, I don't know when, CTP, we've talked about it on air, John. CTP has some ideas about legacy content. Speak Network, Dan's talked ideas about legacy content, rewarding it. There are projects, and I talked to Cal. Cal is trying to rack his brain how to figure out how to reward evergreen legacy content. There are going to be a number of projects. Ultimately, somebody's going to figure it out. And when one person does, a bunch of people are going to copycat it. Having that legacy content up there could make you a fortune. Hive is going to turn into a micro earning blockchain. And you may not get a lot of money on each payout. But all of a sudden, if you're getting 1,000 payouts a day in different tokens, on different content, on stuff you did 3 years ago, that tends to add up. And that's the point we're not far away from. I can see it. I know, I mean, John sat there shaking his head on the two parts of the project that relate to CTP. I'm not talking out my ass. John is part of the team. He is validating what I'm saying. You know, Dan mentioned on a ACTT podcast. So, I mean, these ideas are being thrown around at the second layer, and somebody's going to get it worked into their tokenomics. So, you know, are you going to want to have 10 shit posts up there, or are you going to want to have 200 quality posts that people could come across? And again, it doesn't have to be 5,000 word Gone with the Wind manuscript. As we were talking before the show, if you do a tremendous like or two, I mean, you know, One Alpha's been posting tremendous pictures on Threads of photography he takes of where he lives and sunsets and stuff. Amazing imagery. I always upvote this. I always give it a click. It's not worth a lot. He does like 4 or 5 a day some days. I click them all. It's wonderful content. If somebody comes across that content in 2 years, it's still worthy of an upvote. That's what we're moving towards. So, I mean, if you're listening to this, now, I mean, the best time to get active and to fully 110% dedicate to Hive was yesterday. The second best time is right now.
Yep. Get out there and create. You heard it from Task. Guys, thank you for listening. We'll get questions on Tuesday, tentative.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. But I'm going to put questions out this weekend. So we'll be back asking questions if we have a free day on Tuesday. Thank you for listening. Toodles.
Ciao.